Shalom, blessed souls. This is Dharma Talk. And before we start, I'd like to make an offer to you, all of you. If you feel that you're benefiting from these few minutes we spent together in cyberspace, a place where actually we can see a fusion, what we call Asham, smoke. But if we break down the acronym of Ashan, which is an Ayin, Shin, and Nun, the Ayin alludes to Olam, the Shin, or Olam, Olam refers to space or place, Shin referring to Shana, time, and Nun, Nefesh, the soul, that there's a way you can express your gratitude, not to me, but of course to the Holy One, blessed be HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Again, if you feel there is nourishment derived from this brief video, I'd like to ask a favor of you. Give $1 for tzedakah charity. Put a smile on another one's face after you've seen this video. Help someone any way you can. And afterwards, see how you feel and share the experience with another person. As well, if you connect through the Sweet Judgments YouTube space, or I'll post on this video on the bottom of the screen my web space. In my space, you can submit to me names of people who need healings, or need strengthening, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I can broadcast that out. And again, if you derive benefit, or they derive benefit from it, again, not to send any money to me, or any benefit, but to give a little more charity, tzedakah, to put another smile on his face, and let's start a bonfire of tzidkos, of righteousness, to sweep across this earth, which is sorely aching for it in the light of this travesty, this violence that took place in India this past week. Not only for Rabbi Holtzberg and his wife Rivka, may they rest in peace, but also for the B'nai Noach, the British citizens, the American citizens, and the Indian citizens, and of course members of the Indian police force. Because we're living in such times where we really have to take stock of ourselves and saying, what are we doing with our time? Are we making good use of our time? In connection to what I mentioned before, Asham, Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. So with that being stated, I'd like to share with you, blessed souls, some universal teachings. But before that, let's proceed with a verse from King David, blessed David HaMelech. Sama nafshi le'elohim le'el choy masai avo ve'era'eh pnei Elohim. Translation: my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When will I come and behold the countenance of God? That being said, blessed souls, there's a fundamental principle in Torah, which the Rambam, one of the greatest scholars in our nation's history, and not just for Israel, but for the world. In fact, he was honored in 1985 with the United Nations for his universal work, even though this blessed soul lived over 900 years ago. And he writes, what is the way to love and fear the Most High? At the time that a person is misbonen into the actions, the wonders, and the works of the Creator, how great they are, and can see from His infinite wisdom, that there's no comparison. Immediately a person wishes to love and to give praise and to glorify Him with this tremendous desire to know Him, as I mentioned before in this verse in Psalms 42:3, Tehillim, Perik Mem Beit, Pasuk Gimel. With that being said, we of Israel, and not only we of Israel, but anyone of the world, any inhabitants of the world, Kol Boy Olam, can declare unabashedly, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord, the Creator, is our God, the Lord is one. And the Rambam talks about these matters, saying this is one of the foundation, this is the foundation of all foundations and pillar of all wisdoms, to know that there is a Creator that brings out all that is to be. And in the 7th law, in the 1st chapter, that the knowledge of this is actually a positive mitzvah from the Torah, which again is actualized through the pronunciation of the Shema Yisrael. Concluding, blessed souls, it's understood from his words, according to the blessed teachings, anointed teachings of Hillel Parich, who lived from 1795 and then ascended up on high, I think it was in 1860, that we're not talking about a physical hearing, we're also alluding to a spiritual type of hearing, a spiritual type of understanding, which is activated by what is known as the panemius or ozen, the inner ear, the spiritual power located in this convoluted shaped part of our body, which is able to allow us to distinguish between good and evil, and between truth and that which is not of truth. And also, if you will go to the book of Job, Iyov, which is actually, by the way, blessed souls, the longest story in the whole Tanakh. Very interesting. The longest story in all of Tanakh is not about a Yehudi, a Jew, or an Israelite, a Bnei Yisrael, but actually about a Ben Noach. And this verse, if you bear with me, we're very live, you can see I'm being very spontaneous and not exactly on key as I usually am, quite disturbed by the events of what happened last week, was that he says here that if you go to Iyov, Rav Hillel Parich says, Ozen Milan Tivchan, can the ears distinguish words? Well, that's a question that answers itself because of this whole idea of the spiritual ear, the spiritual power within the ear to distinguish between good and evil, and that which is truth and not that which is not truth. So I implore upon you, blessed souls of creation, even if your main mode of spirituality or methodology is not of Torah, that we all do some hardcore meditation to start distinguishing and clinging for that which is the truth, and to shun that which is not truth, and to cling to good, and to shun the evil. So we can greet Arya Shel Yehuda, the Lion of Judah, in a peaceful, pleasant manner. Sababa, rejoice, Ahava Echad, one love, Bori Echad, in the one Creator, Bogor Echad, one destiny, for all the blessed human souls that dwell upon this blessed earth. Shalom, Hamshich, to be continued.